All right, let's move right into our next guest, and that gentleman is Jeff Bell, CEO, LegalShield. Jeff is an American Chief Executive Officer and Market Leader. He is the CEO of LegalShield. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Thank you so very much. It's an honor to join you today.
All right, thank you. I'm glad to have you here. You have a topic and a company that's just right on top of everybody's worry list of what they do. Let me back up, give you time to introduce yourself, your background, and then let's get right into what your company does, LegalShield.
Well, great. Yes, LegalShield is the largest provider of legal service plans in the United States, and we are probably the least known company in the U.S. that should be known, and that's because we've all been raised to think that lawyers are better educated, speak their own language, and charge a lot of money by the hour, not responsive, and are not accountable to the results that we need whenever we use them. LegalShield was created to disrupt that, not to destroy it. We have 1.7 million households as members, and they pay $20 a month to be able to use all of the services of a law firm, whether it's getting your will done, having your speeding tickets handled, if you get in an auto accident or a dispute with your neighbor, getting the advice and representation that you need, but not worrying about having to pay by the hour. So, in effect, we retain a law firm in every U.S. state, and then those services are provided. In addition, and I think what we're going to talk about today, we're the second largest provider of identity theft protection after LifeLock. We have a product called ID Shield, and that product monitors people's identity, so putting information into a secured vault, whether it's credit products, bank accounts, also your social security number, driver's license, etc., your old emails, your social personas in social media. We monitor all of that, not to prevent identity theft. Anyone who tells you that that's possible is wrong, but to alert you if, in fact, your personal information somehow has been compromised and used by criminals to do things that are obviously not in your best interest, whether that's taking out a loan, getting a different driver's license, renting an apartment in your name, all of these things that obviously will cause great harm to you when they occur. And then the other part of our service is, God forbid that happens to you, that your identity is stolen and used to create a crime and a civil offense. We then have licensed private investigators that do all the work for our members to be able to restore that identity and expunge the transgression from the record.
Let's talk about the difference between LifeLock, what they're not telling us, Equifax, and Experian. There's some big moves right between those four things.
Yes, it is. As we know, recently Equifax said that the data that they hold, which is Social Security numbers, along with 143 million people's credit histories. So every time you have either gotten a car loan, you've gotten a mortgage, you have a credit card, if you have a bank account, all of that data was compromised by Equifax, and that's a big problem. This is a huge deal because Yahoo compromised people's email addresses and passwords. Well, that's a different, and still egregious, but it's a different level of violation as to have a credit service actually compromise all of your really intricate private financial details. And so when we think about that, clearly it's not a question of whether bad things are going to be happening to people. It's when they happen, how well are you protected? What service do you have in place? And, again, I am a competitor to LifeLock, so full disclosure. I just find it disingenuous that they're on national television advertising like crazy, turning up the advertising and saying to people, don't worry, we've got a fix for you. If you are afraid of the Equifax breach, buy our product and we'll help you. Well, the one thing that they don't bother telling everybody is that they monitor people's identity with Equifax. And so again, that just seems to me to be inappropriate. And I raise my hand as one person, regardless of being the CEO of LegalShield and IDShield, and I just think that that's not right. I just don't think, I think people should be better informed. And now today, hopefully your listeners will be. We use Experian, and I'm not going to tell you that, it's impossible for anyone to suffer a data breach. It's just that Experian has not. The data that they are monitoring for their customers, it has not been breached. And so I'm not being arrogant, but we're at least not saying to people, hey, if you're afraid and don't have protection because of the Equifax breach, use us, we'll solve it. But I will tell you, we use Experian to do credit monitoring. And then we have a series of other databases. We monitor the dark web.
Jeff,
to see if people's data is on there and stuff like that.
Jeff, we need to take a break, and I want to hear. We'll start with the dark web on the other side of this break because there is a lot of questions I have for you. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
All right, we'll be right back with Jeff Bell, CEO of LegalShield, LegalShield.com. You're listening to CEO Money with Michael Yorba, your host. We'll be right back. Welcome back to CEO Money. I'm Michael Yorba. We're talking with Jeff Bell, CEO, LegalShield, LegalShield.com. Jeff, when we left off, we just started to touch on the dark web. Bring us into that, and then I have 1,000 more questions for you.
Please, the one thing that people need to know is that, we hear about a breach, whether it is the Office of Management and Budget for the U.S. government or even the IRS. We've heard about Sony or Target. Now we've most recently heard about Yahoo and Equifax. The question that every citizen should ask is, well, what does that mean? Where does the data go? Well, when a criminal, whether they are a domestic criminal or they are an international criminal, they're grabbing information when they hack into these systems, and then they take that information and they place it in markets, literal transaction markets, where, for instance, they say, I have 10,000, 100,000 Social Security numbers for sale. And then people go and look at those numbers, and then they buy them. They buy them. And in fact, one of the things that we know is that Social Security numbers, credit card numbers, other information that's been stolen, it's offered more than once. And it tends to, again, be focused on people that want to buy them for different reasons, whether it's for medical fraud, it could be for tax return fraud, it could be, again, for credit and loan application fraud. All of those things are possible. We monitor those marketplaces. Now, again, it's kind of like being a private investigator. We're there posing as if we're to buy and sell, but we're monitoring, we're evaluating what's available. And when we see that one of our members who have given us the trust of knowing what information they would like to have monitored, we give an alert. And we tell them that the data has, in fact, appeared in the dark web. We're not the only ones there. You should know that law enforcement's there. These are marketplaces that pop up, and almost as soon as you figure it out and you see what's going on, they close down and they pop up somewhere else. It is the very ugly underside of the World Wide Web that exists. And it is the place, though, where all of these compromised credentials appear and are bought and sold.
Give me the differences that consumers need to know between LifeLock ID and IDShield and these other services.
Yeah, LifeLock, other than the fact that their credit monitoring is done by Equifax, the people that just released, information, unfortunately, on 143 million people, LifeLock also has 3 different types of service, and IDShield only has 1. The 3 different services at LifeLock are their basic, their advantage, and their premium. They charge $9.99 for the basic, and then their premium, their advantage, is $19.99, and their premium is $29.99. For IDShield, an individual can be protected and have full restoration services for $9.95 a month. And indeed, we protect a family, which is the member and their spouse or partner, and up to 8 dependents, children presumably, or adopted children living at home for $19.95 a month. And so we feel like we have the best value. But most importantly is it appears that LifeLock, about 3/4 or 3 million of the 4 million people that they have as members, they have that basic plan. And the thing that is not clearly understood and it's not presented in their advertising is that if, God forbid, one of those people have an identity theft and they call LifeLock, their service basically entitles them to a conversation with a customer service representative who's going to give them guided self-help, is going to tell them, here's what you now need to do to solve your problem. And I think that's unconscionable. I honestly believe, and I've called for regulation around this. Again, you could say, well, it's my advantage, but there's no advantage when people are being harmed. You can read online people who were just destroyed by the fact that they paid money for a service that basically just gave them a checklist and told them, good luck, you can do it on your own. And in ID Shield, what we offer for $9.95 for an individual, we do all of the work. The only thing that we ask of our members is to complete a power of attorney so that the licensed private investigator that is assigned to your case has the full power on your behalf to go speak with law enforcement or the IRS, Social Security, or any lending agency that unfortunately lent money to somebody that impersonated your identity. Their job is to not only keep you from harm's way, but also to expunge that from your credit history as well as potentially from any criminal history, as the case may be.
Jeff, we've got a minute left. New trends that you're seeing in cybersecurity issues and what people should do to protect themselves or be aware of in the future.
The most frightening thing that's happening today is that when somebody has a child born and they get a Social Security number for that child, and it's such a beautiful moment, they don't think about them as full-grown adults until they turn 18. And it's just natural. It's in our society. But increasingly criminals getting a hold of both Social Security and any other information about your children, the minors, and then establishing an alternative identity with those credentials. And then suddenly when your child turns 18 or they get a driver's license, and suddenly it pops up that someone has basically been impersonating them for a long period of time, racking up debts, perhaps criminal activity. That's known as synthetic identity theft, and it is on the rise, and it is terribly frightening. It's one reason why even minors need the protection of a product like ID Shield.
Jeff, we've got to run now. I want to have you back on the show because I know you've got a wealth of information about trends, cybersecurity issues. Please accept my opportunity to come back when you in the future.
God bless you, my friend. I appreciate you. Thanks for having me on today. I'm here whenever you need me.
Pleasure. Jeff Bell, CEO, LegalShield, LegalShield.com.